Hello! In this video we're going to learn about symbolizing double negations and what they mean. We'll see in a later video that we have some rules in the derivation system involving double negation. Right now I'm just going to be talking about what double negations mean and symbolization with them. We saw earlier that we can build sentences by just tacking on negations. We could continue this process if we wanted to for the rest of our lives, just writing another negation sign and then another negation sign and another negation sign. Not probably the best way to spend the rest of your life, but you could if you wanted, and you would just produce lots of different sentences. The reason why it would be completely worthless is because of how the meanings of all these sentences fit together, among other things. So let's think about this. Negation, negation, you. Remember, the negation of a sentence, it's true if and only if the sentence it's attached to is false. So negation, negation, you, that's true if and only if, well, negation, you is false. We take off, there are two negations there, so we take off the first one, and what the whole thing is saying is that one, the negation, the one with just one negation is false, but now this one, not you, is false. When is that? Well, when you is true, because you has the opposite value of not you, has the opposite value of not you. And so not you and you always have the same truth value, and that's a matter of logic. They always agree. They're two different sentences, they have different grammar, they have a different number of symbols in them, but they are always true in the same, they're both always true or both always false as a matter of logic. And so one is just easier to say than the other, and so if we're just talking, then we would always just say you, basically. So let's think about how symbolization then would work. So here we have, it is not the case that he won't confess. So if we look for if we look for the logical words, the words that will turn into logical operators, we have it is not the case that and not attached, well, that won't, right, which is the negation of will, the contraction of will not. All right, well, let's symbolize this. So let's start with it is not the case that. That's hooked onto he won't confess, and so we could just say not he won't confess, right? These two things say the same thing. We're just going from pure English to a mix of English and logic. Now we could try to symbolize the nt in the will not, and that would just be, again, another negation. So now we have negation, negation, he will confess. So let's now symbolize he will confess. That becomes you. And so we have it is not the case that he won't confess, negation, negation, you. Pretty straightforward, and that says the same thing as he will confess. And indeed, in the logical, the program will accept you as what it calls a correct equivalent. So if you were to symbolize it is not the case that he won't confess, if that was a problem in the symbolization module that you had to symbolize, you could put in not you, and you would get correct. If you put in you, the program would say correct equivalent, and the problem would appear green in the problem list, just like a correct answer. What's going on here is that we already saw that not you and you always agree. They always have the same truth value. And so you and not you are equivalent, and the program, the best symbolization of it's not the case that he won't confess is not you, because this symbolization captures the fact that in the English there are these two negations. This one, you, doesn't show that. It doesn't have the two negations from the original sentence, and so it's not as good a symbolization as not you. But they're equivalent. They say the same. They always agree in their truth value, and they do so as a matter of logic, and so they're equivalents. And so the program, the program prefers you to give it not you, and every symbolization problem will have a preferred answer. If you enter a symbolization that is not the preferred answer, but is equivalent to the preferred answer, then the program will accept that as correct, and it will call it a correct equivalent. It will let you know, hey, the answer you've given, it's not the preferred answer, but it is equivalent to the preferred answer, and so that's going to count as correct. If you know that the symbolization you're going to produce is going to be not the one the program wants, but a correct equivalent, that's good. If you're producing correct equivalents and you don't understand why they're not correct, then that's something you want to think about and might get in touch with me about. Say, hey, I'm producing these correct equivalents, but I don't know why they aren't just correct, because it means that there's something going on there where there's something you're not understanding about the original English sentence. So, full credit, if you produce a lot of them and you're not sure why, then get in touch with me and we'll figure out why it is that you're producing the correct equivalents instead of the correct answers. There's something tricky, though, about double negation in English and also in other natural languages like Spanish, and I want to talk a little bit about that so that we're really clear on what's going on with double negations. So let's say I have something. Let's symbolize that by X. So if I said I have nothing, that would be, we could symbolize that as not X. And if I said I don't have anything, we could also symbolize that as not X. Those two, the second and third sentences, they say more or less the same thing. They say it in a different way, but they're saying more or less the same thing, and they're both denying the first one. They're both negations of the first. They put the negations in different places. One has that not in nothing, and the other has the negation on don't. But they're still doing the same thing. What about I don't have nothing? What's going on there? Well, there are two negations there. There's the negation in the don't and the negation in the nothing. And so if you think, well, there are two negations, so we should have, it's a double negation, and it's actually saying I have something, right? I don't have nothing, strictly and literally speaking, we might think means is a double negation of X. It's a double negation of I have something. And that might sound, you might say, well, I'm not sure about that. So let's think about this in a little bit more detail. Let's think about I don't have nothing. So strictly speaking, there are many dialects of English. Every language has many dialects, but in standard English, its literal meaning is not X. But we barely ever say this and mean that. Typically, if I say I don't have nothing, what I mean is I'm not trying to put in one negation and then cancel it out. I'm putting in the second negation to really emphasize it. And what I actually mean is I don't have anything. And I say the nt and the nothing because I'm really emphasizing the negation. And there's some dialects of English where probably actually that's what this means, where when you put in the two negations, you're really just emphasizing the first one. But in standard English, there are all these different dialects. They're all fine. They're all equally good ways of communicating. In standard English, the two negations, the not and the nothing, would be functioning separately, each being a negation, giving us not X. So in English, there's a complication because sometimes when we have two negations, in some dialects, the literal meaning would be two negations canceling each other out. But often when we say or write something like this, we mean to be emphasizing the negation, and so it's really not X. Something else is happening in other languages. So no hay nadie, my Spanish pronunciation is probably terrible, but this means in Spanish it means I have nothing. So what's going on here? Well, its literal meaning in Spanish is not X, right? Do I have something? No. And that's what it means. But it's not actually, this is not an intensifier use. Like, it's not the same thing as I don't have nothing, and what I mean is really not X. Here, there's the no and the not in nadie, so no is not and nadie is nothing. Here, there are two negation words. There's the no and the nadie, but what's happening is that they're cooperating to form one negation. If you only had the noe or the nadie, it wouldn't be grammatical. So in Spanish, negation works, the grammar of negation and how the negation is distributed throughout the sentence works somewhat differently than it does in English. And many other languages are like Spanish. So French, for example, is like Spanish. So here we have the no and the nadie cooperating. There's just one negation. It's a negation of I have something. This is saying, no, I have nothing. It's not the case that I have something, and the two words no and nadie cooperate to produce that effect. So double negations are kind of tricky once we start thinking about them a little bit. There's how they work in some, there's their literal meaning in standard English. There's the emphasizer use, the emphasis use in standard English. Maybe in some dialects of English, the emphasis use is the only one that's available, and then in other languages like Spanish, what looks like maybe what we might in some sense call a double negation is not in our logical sense a double negation. There's only one negation there, but there are two negation words working together to make one negation. So that's kind of complicated. Fortunately for us in symbolization, we don't need to actually worry about these complications, but I've talked about them to sort of say we don't have to worry about them. Because all the problems that we're doing in the symbolization problem in the symbolization module are in English, so we don't have this cooperative negation usage that happens in Spanish, and we're going to interpret them as literally as possible, as they would be meant in standard English. What that means is that each negation word or phrase gets its own negation symbol. And so a double negation in English is going to be symbolized as a double negation in Spanish. Not in Spanish, in logic. So double negation in English is going to be a double negation in the logical language. So if we had I don't have nothing, that would be two negation signs in the logical language. Now, I don't think actually, as it turns out, that this is going to be at all confusing. In all of the symbolization problems, I think it's pretty clear that they're just these two different negation signs. We'll have like it is not the case that, and then maybe another it is not the case that, or it is not the case that, and then a not on the verb. And I think it'll be pretty clear what's going on, and the symbolization module has checking. And this is how negation works in English, and that's why we're proceeding as we are with double negation in the module. So, and I think you'll find this straightforward once you get in and start working on the problems. Again, if you have any questions about this, please let me know.